All right, so we should be live. Let's have a look. Almost slightly slow reaction here. Hope everyone's all right anyway. Let me know you can hear me and all that sort of thing. Hello, EA Audits. Hello. Sweeps Foxman. I will get round to your comment in a minute because I know you repeated it in the show notice. Hello, Teddy Border Collie. That's a good name. A lovely dog, Border Collies. They have to walk them about 3 hours a day. That's the only problem. David Splendid Isolation. Good evening, hello, good evening, and welcome. We got a David Frost in the chat. Hello, UFO nut. My goodness me, another one. I knew I wasn't the only one. Let me know you can hear me. Hello, Bernie Tucker. How do you do? Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Trump inauguration going, no! But, I'd like it. Obviously, I would like it. I would like there to be disclosure. I really, really would. But, my stream's buffering. What's going on? 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 What's going on? But, my stream's buffering. What's going on? It keeps repeating over and over again. My stream's buffering. What's going on? All right. Refresh your pages, says Neil. Maybe all right. Might be all right now. Okay. I don't know what to do about that, unfortunately. I mean, I've got... Check my settings. Audio is fine. Camera 5x5. Hopefully we'll be able to carry on in a minute. Anyway, on the subject of disclosure, while we're waiting for the internet to catch, and the Mercury, you know what? This is weird because the Mercury retrograde ended today. And this was like the first day when I've been sort of like switching on my PC, not crossing my fingers. Oh dear. Well, it seems stable now. All right, thanks, Neil. That's great. Right, I don't know how much of what you heard of what I said at the beginning, but Diego Rivera asked me when disclosure was going to be. Richard Dolan did a video explaining how he thinks there will be no disclosure in 2024, which I replied with the meme of the young woman at the at the Trump inauguration going, no! But thanks, guys. It seems to be better now. Whatever's a problem, it seems to have cleared up. Sod off, Mercury. You've had your fun. So, the answer, you see, when we're dealing with this disclosure issue, I mean, we're pushing ourselves more and more towards catastrophic disclosure. Some of you might have missed me saying this, but what I'm going to say, I wanted to know how many of you have read the book. And so I wanted you to put an N in chat if you've not read the book or you have not finished it yet. I'm just saying this because there's going to be spoilers. There's going to be spoilers. So do put the letter N in chat if you've not read it or you haven't finished it. All right, because this is kind of for people who've already read it. I mean, you don't have to. I'm not saying get off the live stream and don't watch. But there will be spoilers in this particular live stream, unfortunately. And David hasn't. All right, not a problem. Well, David, I hope you don't mind if and neither is Teddy Border Collie. Okay. Well, I hope you don't mind. Hello, EA Audits. How do you do? Yeah. Are you still doing your live stream after this? Because I would join you if you are. But EA Audits did a really good live stream a couple of nights ago, Sunday night, and we discussed Kaz Clark. Now, some of you, I know you want. I've actually got good news for you because a lot of people on social media were sort of coming to me and saying, "Hang on, Kaz Clark and Gary Jones have disappeared from Facebook." You know who I'm talking about? The people involved with the Pentagon UFO incident. Now, it's they and I checked, and it's true. Their Facebook accounts are gone, and the website was down. We were a bit worried. We thought either they've gone into hiding and they've disappeared on of their own volition, or someone might have got nabbed them, because they've had like sinister people following them around. And of course, I've told you about my own phone call that I had before I went to Denmark. Evening, Rhiannon. How are you? How do you do? Hi, Rhiannon. Because I had that weird phone call before I went to Denmark. Now, the good, and because I still have Kaz's phone number and Gary's phone number, so I texted them, and they were, and funny, I got a phone call from Kaz. She's fine. Gary's fine too. They are just taking time out. They have an arrest from Facebook and the whole internet scene, because basically there's a bunch of, unfortunately, it's an all too familiar story, and I think the word Ross Coulthart uses is puerile. Puerile, I like that word, puerile. Basically, a bunch of internet tough guys who can't just disagree politely. They've got to be rude and aggressive. Have been doing everything they can to make Kaz's and Gary's life a misery. I mean, who needs MI5? Who needs the CIA when we in our own community sow this much discord? Anyway, all's well that ends well. They're just going to they're taking a break, and goodness knows they've earned it. They've bloody earned it. Those guys have gone above and beyond. I mean, Gary has gone out independently to research this, do the field research. Kaz is the witness who's spoken out, and she kept speaking out. They've done everything they can, and more. Anyway, that's kind of a good segue. I thought that was a bit of a diversion because I saw EA Audits was in chat, but Teddy asked, "Where's David Caton?" I don't know. I haven't heard from him for a while. David Caton's the guy who studies the crop circles and the mutes and things. Now, it's kind of a bit of a segue rather than a diversion, because catastrophic disclosure. Now, I don't like the term catastrophic disclosure myself. I don't like it. I think it implies something negative. It's like a catastrophic Easter or catastrophic Christmas. Oh, I don't want that. Catastrophe is something bad, isn't it? I don't like that term, but it is the term that all it basically means is somebody completely outside the normal flows of information from states to the people divulges information to the people independently. That's all it means. And it could be that's the only way forward now. It could be that is the only way to break this impasse. Because after watching Richard Dolan's, I mean, not the latest one he's done, because he's just done a review of Luis Elizondo's book just now. But after watching the video he did before, which was his video, "There will be no disclosure in 2024." I thought, well, if this is going to, if this is going to go on forever, maybe catastrophic disclosure is the only way. And we had the Schumer Amendment last year, which had words like, UAP, alien technology, and non-human intelligence, things like that. It had eminent domain, which means controlling private companies who were contractors to the state. It had the setting up of an executive oversight and things like that. So there's no more of this, the president's not actually cleared or anything like that. And then it was just all scuppered. It was all scuppered by the two mics. Yeah. Oh, EA says, "I've just spotted a UFO as we speak." Hey, film it, mate. Film it. Put it on your channel. So basically, what they're saying is, this is really, if they're going to close off all these legal avenues, because now there's always talk. Now, I know Steve Bassett was talking about this, a couple of other people. Danny Sheehan is talking about the 18th of October as a big day, because he still has faith in this piece of legislation. If they're going to close off all the legal avenues, because I mean, for all I know, there'll be another Schumer amendment in next year's NDAA, and it'll be hobbled and castrated again, like the last one was, and it'll go down onto the statute books as a pale husk of its former self. Now, if they're going to do that every time, and what's to stop them doing it again next year? What's to stop them doing it again with NDA 25? So, if catastrophic disclosure happens, and it may be the only way forward, hello, nothing as it seems, how are you? If that's the only way forward, then those in control of the truth embargo have only themselves to blame for closing off every other avenue possible. So as far as catastrophic disclosure goes, I say bring it on. And the thing about catastrophic disclosure, as I said, I don't like the term, is it could happen anytime, anywhere, any place, anyhow, from anyone. It could happen tomorrow, or it could happen in 10 years. We will not know in advance, because anyone who does catastrophic disclosure will have to do it quickly. They'll have to do it quickly, they'll have to do it immediately. Hello, Country Carpenter, how do you do? Welcome. So, now, people say, well, is Luis Elizondo doing catastrophic disclosure? The answer is no. And I think this may be his biggest problem, and I'll go into this. This comes out in the book. Hello, Bumbleina, welcome. This really comes out in the book. That this could be the core issue he's dealing with. And this is firstly why he really hasn't achieved, despite the fact that he is, I believe he's sincere, and I know other people disagree. Sweeps Fox has disagreed with me, and I'll explain why in a minute, why I don't agree. But his big problem is he is not doing catastrophic disclosure. He insists he's going to keep all his security oaths, just like David Grush. He's keeping all his security regulations. He's not revealing any classified information. He's just going to reveal what he can reveal legally and try and educate the public. That's his goal. He called it, he and his friends in ORSAP called it the 5 pillars. What was it called? What was it? Hang on, 5 pillars. What chapter was it? Hang on. I've got so many notes here. Hang on. Oh, it's not here. Hang on, it's 5 pillars. Where was it? I can't remember what the term was. I could find it in here, maybe. Let me just see if I can find it in here in the book. I've got by the way, you want to see the book. I don't have a hard copy of the book, which I suppose is a bit irritating because, right, search. Oh, building search index. Now, this is the annoying thing as well, I should point out. It's only, well, it's now available. It's suddenly, here we go. Right, here we go. It's on page 290. We called our plan the 5 pillars of engagement. We identified key members of the media who covered national security issues and were open to the idea of UAP and learning who stood in the way of national security. Meanwhile, Jay and I worked, where is it? Needed a rep from the Space Force, but that agency was still getting set up at the time. God, this is running slow now. Now, this is one of the problems, right? I've just come across something else I wanted to bring up. At the moment, at the time it was published, it was only available in 3 formats: hardback book, audiobook, or Kindle, or ebook. Now, I chose Kindle in the end. I mean, if it had been paperback, I'd have bought a paperback. It is now available as paperback. I don't know why it couldn't be available as paperback on launch day, but there you go. So I've chosen the Kindle version. Sweeps, hello Sweeps, how you doing? The covert projects which have been running UFO-related programs for nearly 60 years are not interested in a disclosure. Carefully evaluate what you're hearing for the MSN. Yeah, I know. It seems that they're not. I mean, unless Sweeps, there are white hats coming through. I mean, that's not sure. Anyway, David says, societal disruption, catastrophic disclosure. Is it the last option to distract from their multiple crimes? David, I don't. This is quite a fashionable idea right now. You know, you've seen the meme of the hypnotic pendant. You know, first it's like the C word, the COVID, then it's Ukraine, then it's UFOs. The thing is, though, if they really want to distract us from things, why do they have to make up something as elaborate as aliens? A soap opera scandal will do just as well, or a celebrity crime or affair or something like that. No, you see, anything like that might backfire because it's something like UFOs will actually encourage people. It'll actually causes people's minds to open rather than close. So if they want to distract us, they'll use something far more mundane. Societal disruption is one of these buzzwords. It's like catastrophic disclosure. Societal. It's like ontological shock is another word. Yeah, it's ontological shock. EA, I'll just see. Thanks to EA. I'll look at it afterwards. Cheers. See, it's a tempting option to distract, but it's a hand they can only play once, so they may be keeping it for now. I think the only way they could use this, David, would be if they said that there are evil aliens out there. And David has preempted exactly what I was going to say. The last card, the last card, the last card. Carol Rosin, what she said. Oh, Liana says, can you play the clip EA has sent you on the UFO? Oh, means I've got to log into my email. Hang on. Is it on your channel, EA? Could you upload it to your channel, please? I can't log into my email now. Hang on. Where is it? Let me know when you've uploaded it, would you? And I'll play it. Yes, I mean, the only way this would work is if, like I said, it played the fake alien invasion thing. That's the only way it would work. Hello, Nihilist Lives Matter. Good to see you, mate. Now, the foreword is written by Christopher Mellon. What's this? Oh, no. This is a document I need to shut. The foreword was written by Christopher Mellon, who has been he's been good in supporting Lou, actually. And he describes meeting Lou. He describes what he looks like, what he's talking like. And he says we need an airspace defense. The need for airspace defense is really the real source of all this, because he is a military strategist and this is how he thinks. The whole ORSAP ATIP thing, and I'll explain the difference between those two things in a minute, is really, they're all thinking in military terms here. So it's not just, well, what are they, it's a scientific thing. Although I'm sure that is in their heads. Their actual duty is to protect the nation from threats, and that's what this is primarily about from their point of view. Now, Sweep says, I'll go through there's only one notice comments, and it's Sweeps Fox, and he says here, hi all, Elizondo is a government plant, part of the controlled opposition. I know this guy from being 18 years in military intelligence. Don't fall from this, Ben. Okay, well, if you... Sweeps, from what I've seen, I don't think that's the case. If you know more, then please let us know, because at the moment we've had so many defenders and detractors with Elizondo, and you can never say that one side is definitely right and the other is definitely wrong. But the point if we take like the paradigm of prevention, which is we just assume everything is fake. We take the Richard D. Hall position and just descend into universal cynicism and paranoia. Then we make no progress at all. On the other hand, of course, this leaves us vulnerable to disinformation agents. So we have to tread a path here between excessive cynicism and excessive naivety, and it is a very narrow path. So do let us know what you know. Now, the funny thing is, like in this book, there are redactions. You find redactions. I think this has been done for effect, and I mean, a lot of people are going to criticize Lou for this. I think it's probably a just criticism. He's probably done it. In fact, there are some names are redacted, some entire paragraphs are redacted. Now, this is to make the book look intriguing, so it's done for the sake of intrigue. Whereas in other passages, he uses a completely different method. What he does is he simply gives people fake names. There are about 4 or 5 characters or individuals in the book who, of course, are real people, whom he simply gives placeholder names. He just calls them the equivalent of John Doe. He just gives them a fake name. So the redactions, of course, were based on recommendations from DOPSA, and this has gone through a very, very long security process. In fact, it's been in the hands of DOPSA, the Defense Office of Security pre-publication review. This is so that it's basically just checking there's no classified information in things before they're published. It's been in their hands for a whole year. So it's a very, very long review indeed. And it would be very easy for Lou's editor or the publisher the publisher's editor simply to omit those passages and names, or change the names, but they've left them in there, which of course is for the purposes of intrigue. There's no doubt about it. It's been done for the purposes of intrigue. Hello, James. How are you, sir? Are you well? And Teddy Border Collie says, I'm sure there will be a fake alien invasion. They have hologram technology. I'm sure that's what the large triangles are. Well, some of them possibly. I mean, there's no doubt they could do it, yeah. But it will be a double or quit situation. So they'd only do something like that if they're absolutely desperate. Rhiannon says, I would keep an open mind about whether or not Elizondo, or indeed anyone else, is genuine or controlled opposition. We can only judge someone on what they say and do. Boring, but essential, I think. I agree. I agree indeed. I mean, Sweeps is very, very convinced that Elizondo is a shill. I know many other people who do not have Sweeps' background as an intelligence officer, who also think that he's a shill. I know that the not Black Vault, that's John Greenwald. The other guy, Daniel List, dark journalist. He's convinced he's a government plant. I've spoken to many, many people who are convinced he's a government plant. The backslappers are going crazy. I should point out that Sweeps is not a backslapper. All right, so just make that clear. A backslapper is not someone who says someone is a shill. All right, a backslapper who's someone who's calling other people shills is a part of their very identity and even their self-esteem. Okay, just to make it clear. Hello, Michael Snow. How are you doing? Just for a bit of explanation, a backslapper, right? How do you know who is a backslapper? Who do I mean, right? If you meet somebody and you mention someone's name, could be anyone within the community, and they say one of two things. They say that person's a shill, man. Or they either say that, or they say that person's man. That person's an agent. They're working for MI5, man. They're working for the CIA. Or they say that, or the other thing they say is that person's naive. He's naive. He's being used by shells. All right. They say one of those two things, and they don't. It's not just to coin a famous to coin a phrase. It's not just what they say; it's the way they say it. All right. If they say it with the implication, either stated or otherwise, I'm the only one who can see through it, man. I'm the only one who can see through it. And you bring up something else, like any kind of case. Could be a Loch Ness monster. It could be Borley Rectory. It could be anything you like. And they say, that's a psyop, man. It's a psyop. Right. And only I can see it. That person is a backslapper. All right. That's it. And they say that about almost everyone, except themselves and their backslapping chums. They say that about absolutely everyone. David O'Reilly says, I don't mean they have invented UFO UAP. It's just that they may feel they have no options left but to disclose, or they could plan to disclose fake aliens to be exposed as fake, bury the alien truth. You mean they certainly haven't invented UAP, no, or UFOs. No, they may feel they have no options left but to disclose. Well, I think there's one thing they could do if they're really pushed into a corner. False disclosure is probably the most likely way they go. As you know, if you've read Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, available at all good bookshops now, priced £10 or thereabouts. All right. As you know, if you read this book, this basically happens in this book. They're pushed into a position where disclosures happened inadvertently. What do? Fake disclosure. And that unfortunately is the most likely disclosure we're going to get. Now, is Luis Elizondo a part of that, do you think? That's the thing. Teddy says, I'm sure they will get desperate. There are so many people not falling for their crap now. This is it. I mean, that's what gives me hope. I mean, look how things have changed. Look how much more cynical people are and aware of the people just don't believe like they used to. I mean, imagine, well, I've done a little live stream about the situation in Israel, which essentially is exactly the same as the situation at Pearl Harbor. I mentioned Efrat Henriksen and her assessment of it, right? Look at the result. Look at the reaction though from the people based on those two things, which are basically exactly the same. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, I've done 2 live streams on that, so check those out. Alan says, I'm a bit concerned why he responded when Coulthard said in your book, you say certain corporations have been reverse engineering alien tech by saying, yes, I did say that in my book instead of yes. Right, yeah, I mean, this is something I want to go into, actually. I might be able to play the clip. Can I play the clip without getting a copyright strike? I know EA will let me play his clip. But let's have a look. Where is it? Because this is true. Alan actually sent me a link to this. I could probably get away with playing. Here it is.
Alien biosamples are now being kept at Fort Detrick in Maryland.
Find the right spot.
Or with the were political considerations.
All right, I think was it 28 minutes? Just one sec. Alan sent me a text message about this. Oh, 24:40, right. One sec. Yeah, this is an important moment, actually. I'm going to try and play this, but not get a copyright strike, but there you go. Here we go.
Even famed military intelligence officer turned UFO whistleblower David Grush, who went public on
I'm just speaking so I don't get a copyright
Those
strike.
details were not approved for me to talk about.
But now, Luis Elizondo is going there. There comes a point in your book where you name names.
He does indeed.
You name Lockheed Martin, TRW, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon, BAE Systems, and the Aerospace Corporation as being some of the private corporations that are involved in working on retrieved alien technology. True?
It is true that it is in my book. Yep.
You also...
Very clever, isn't it? That's very... Yeah. Well, yeah, that's odd, isn't it? That's very odd. Why didn't he just say yes? It's like a legal disclaimer, isn't it? None of this lives matter. RDH gives his goldfish the side eye, trying to work out if it's a shill. Sweeps. The powers that be want a manipulative and calculated, consolidated power to promote fear. They want chaos, and a deepening need for Big Brother is carefully crafted to influence the masses. No doubt. Do you think that the UFO issue is connected to that, and that Elizondo is playing a role there? Because you did say that you're absolutely convinced that he is a plant. Diego Rivera, surely humans would have no chance if aliens invaded. Well, we would have no... If it was real aliens, we'd obviously have to defend ourselves. But what if it's not? To be fair, RDH, goldfish can be quite cunning. Well, hecklefish, isn't they? I mean, hecklefish from the Y-Files. Just imagine if Richard had that one. Until the aliens are eventually killed by Earth bacteria. Oh, that was that Deus Ex Machina in War of the Worlds, yeah. Don't sit right with me, Ben, says Rhiannon. And if it's about him not wanting to be sued, then why would he state this fact in his book? Yeah. Orbs. He mentions orbs. Now, this is new information. Yeah, I'll come on to that. Sometimes I think this UFO reverse engineer is a big double bluff, suggested to the Chinese and Russians, look what we might have. Right, this has happened before, that someone actually suggested to me, because the whole someone actually told me the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, that was all actually a big sham, that it wouldn't work. It was just a science fiction fantasy. Yet the Americans said they would do it, and the Russians said they would do it back during the Cold War. The Soviets then said they had their own plan for SDI, to shoot down missiles in flight. And they said basically the whole thing was a fantasy on both sides. None of them ever had any serious practical plans to do it, which is why they named it after a movie. as a nickname. Now, I don't think that's the case. As I said, this is a bit. This seems a bit, you can to make something up that is it is superficially plausible, not knowing you're going to do it, is one thing. Making something up that is essentially pure fantasy, and everyone believes is fantasy. Again, it's rather like the whole distraction theory. It's going to make people look towards what you're trying to cover up, not look away. So I don't think so. I don't think so. Nihilist lives matter. Elizondo claims Roswell was real. Yeah, I agree with him. RDH still fell out with everyone except Andrew Johnson, more or less. Richard. Everyone's a shell except me and Andrew Johnson. What happened to RDH at court? Well, if you go to a Panmo Voice, I've done an entire. I'll show it to you. Where is it? Let's see if I can find it. I've done an entire report on this. There's another guy called Ian Davis who's done one as well. Here we go. Just go. It's all explained here. Especially the last bit here, the last few documents here. I suppose you can see that. The last few documents here are the most important ones. All right, so it's all there. So the first chapter, I'll go right. There we are now. Right, the reactions from skeptics. We'll come on to the reactions from the skeptics, Mick West, people like that. The reactions from the backslappers has been exactly what I expected, and more so. I mean, they have been having an orgy and a mutual masturbation, frottage, mass orgy of glorification that makes Caligula look like the Care Bears movie. And I knew they would, but it's even more. This has really triggered the backslappers. I mean, they are going absolute. They're like little kittens on catnip over this. I mean, I've had them on commenting on Facebook and Twitter, and people who never normally comment on my articles are commenting all over Facebook. They're all like putting, can't you bend this? Elizondo's a shill, and how can you be so, the usual insults and things like that, self-glorification, I'm better than everyone else, that kind of thing. The backslappers are absolutely rolling in vodka-flavored clover right now. This has triggered them like nothing else. Now, chapter 1's good. Chapter 1 begins with, I'm not going to go through a lot of details here. Where the bloody hell? How do I close this bit here? All right, then. Actually, I don't need. I'll have the text here just in case. But Lou says here, while there are valid reasons for secrecy around some aspects of UAP, I do not think humanity should be kept in the dark about the fundamental fact that we are not the only intelligent life in the universe. And he talks about how he met Jay Stratton, and Jay Stratton's married to someone he doesn't name, but he calls her Rosemary. Again, false name. He describes how he got into ORSAP. In page 33, there's a completely redacted paragraph. Now, ORSAP, as you probably noticed, the history of the ORSAP thing, ORSAP actually was focused originally on weird stuff at Skinwalker Ranch. This is why Leslie Kean wouldn't actually tell the whole story, because she thought if she did that, she'd never get it published at all. And this is the dilemma some journalists like her are faced with. I don't know if it's right or wrong. What would you do in her situation? Someone called Ted Stevens. Who was Ted Stevens? Actually, these are just notes. That's all. He saw a UFO. I think he's a politician, isn't he? Let's have a look. Who's Ted Stevens? Oh, yeah. Former president of the United States Senate. He's he died in 2010. American politician and lawyer, served as U.S. Senator for Alaska, President of the United States Senate, the 108th, 109th Congress. Right, you are. So he apparently saw a UFO. That's the story. Hello to everyone who's joined us. Nihilist. It depends on the number and tech of the aliens. If they can throw a rock at the speed of light to Earth, if they spent 300 years getting here, sublight, then we're good. Well, if you ever watched if you ever watched or read the book of the three body problem, it's like it's like 400 years before they arrive. But of course, the government are using it as an excuse just to be very shitty to everyone. Hello, Rosh. How are you? Hello, Pie Pounder. Good evening. Diego Rivera. What does RDH think of you now, Ben? Are you still mates? Yeah, we get on all right. I mean, I think he thinks of me what he thinks of most other people. You know, they're either shills or they're naive or they're Andrew Johnson. I don't know. I think I'm in the naive category. I don't think he thinks I'm a shill. I'm certainly not Andrew Johnson, am I? Yes, indeed. Ian R. Crane lies. Ian R. Crane's a liar. No, I'm not Andrew Johnson. So I think I'm in the naive category. Can kind of see why that Sky TV channel said stick to UFOs to RDH. He loses all perspective. I don't. Richard says what he believes is true, and he's sincere. He doesn't lie. He doesn't make stuff up. And he stood up to those buggers when the BBC. Yeah. Michael says shitting in the face. Yes, that's right. He doesn't wear it anymore, does he, Andrew? Anyway, let me go back to my notes. Chapter, right, he's got a new name, right? He often refers to aliens as friends from out of town. Apparently that is a euphemistic kind of code word that they use at the Pentagon for aliens. Just call them friends from out of town, which I suppose they are technically, aren't they? It's a very typical American thing to do, actually, to sort of downplay it, or sort of like you be ironic when you're speaking. But I suppose that would, firstly, it's a kind of like a nickname again, which is a very American kind of nickname. But also, if you're overheard by someone who, by mistake, you accidentally let someone overhear you, it's a good way if they won't know what you're talking about. It's like we at the hospital used to do this. We used to talk about Rose Cottage. And if anyone overheard us talking about Rose Cottage, they say, what does that mean? But Rose Cottage was a hospital portering word for post-mortem duty, or the mortuary, the PM suite. That's what it meant. In chapter 2, he describes how he meets with Bob Bigelow and Hal Puthoff in a place called Rosslyn, Virginia, at a posh hotel. And this is really weird, right? He talks about things that I never knew. I didn't know he was interested, which is the Colaris incident. Now, if you remember Colaris, this happened in, I think, was it 1975? Let me just get these. My notes are not complete. There we go. Operation Prato, right. Yes, Operation Saucer. 1977 to 78. What happens in Colaris, this very remote region, this very kind of like rural area of Brazil, loads of people, the residents started experiencing encounters with orbs that were very aggressive and unpleasant. They would literally fire beams of light at you, which would take, blood was extracted, things like that. They became very ill. Luckily, the local doctor was very bravely decided to hang around when everyone else was like getting the hell out. She stayed there to look after the people. But they were known as Chupa Chupa, which means sucker. It means the little sucker, which of course it was, I suppose. A guy called Dr. Hollander, he was actually the guy running it from the Brazilian Air Force. He apparently he actually had a implant in himself and he committed suicide. But apparently at this meeting, they discussed the Colaris case. There's also this other case I didn't know about, right? A tank, 2 American tanks, these big Abrams battle tanks that took part in the invasion of Kuwait in 1991. They were attacked by aliens. They were attacked and they had a hole burnt, literally extracted right through them. Apparently, through the armor, through the interior, everything, through 2 of them, as if someone had just taken a cookie cutter and gone like that through them, as if they were just made out of pastry. But these are very, very robust vehicles indeed. I mean, they have armor on them, which is designed to withstand missile and cannon fire, artillery fire and things like that, and missiles. The tanks were taken to a US military base in Arizona, and Lou doesn't know what happened to them after that. In chapter 3, he describes his childhood. He was born in Texas, grew up in Florida. His dad was a Cuban revolutionary who fought alongside Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, but he switched sides. He actually joined the anti-Castro Cubans in the States and took part in the Bay of Pigs invasion, although that actually didn't work out very well, if you remember. And he said he likes Brewster Palmer's movie Scarface, and he thinks of him like that. Of course, Brewster Palmer's brother, Brian, was into free energy, very interestingly. Lou said he was bullied at school, and that's a horrible thing. He said he fought back against the bullies. I mean, I don't know if he did. I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of people who are in this situation at school, they will say, I turned that back and I punched him in the face and I fought back against the bullies. That might be true, but very often what happens is you just grow up, and then you lose touch with the bullies. That's what happened to me most of the time. He was running an intelligence agency which included recruiting walk-in agents. This isn't anything spooky to do with soul catching or anything like that. Walk-ins are just they are people who approach him. They approach the intelligence agency themselves, and they ask to be agents. They're not actually recruited as such. He talks about something called great skills. Now, this is remote viewing, essentially. And, of course, that's a link to Hal Puthoff and the Stanford Research Institute. He talks about Project Stargate, which Uri Geller was involved in. Funny enough, Ross Coulthart has just done an interview with Uri Geller and super soldiers. And he talks about remote viewing. They apparently found a Russian jet. Psychic assassins, that's the stopping the heart of a goat by staring at it and things like that. Lou ended up doing a lot of time in skiffs, and then he got involved with at Skinwalker Ranch with ORSAP, and he did private research on secret computers. Now, which was a little bit worrying because he was scared that someone might work out that start monitoring what his interests were. He met a friend called Will Livingston, who knew apparently who's a doctor, knew about the biological effects of UFOs. He knew about Eric Davis as well. Now, funny thing, Eric Davis is now one of his detractors and said that the book is full of nonsense. But Puthoff said that Roswell was real in a skiff. He spent a lot of time in skiffs. And also they heard that the Roswell crash was caused by an electromagnetic pulse released by an experimental radar laboratory at White Sands Missile Range. And I've heard that before, that UFOs appear to be vulnerable to EMPs. And either from artificial sources, as in this case, or natural sources like lightning. A lot of UFO crashes happen in thunderstorms, like at Virginia. And he said that secrets, he uses this is an interesting analogy. He says secrets age like vegetables, meaning they go off. But the people who keep the secrets think they age like wine. So, in other words, they get better and more secure the longer they're kept. And Lou doesn't agree. He mentions that there is the Lonnie Zamora sighting. He mentions that there was a uranium mine sighting in Africa. This was just after nuclear bombs were being made in large numbers, and there was a massive mining operation in I think it was in Belgian Congo, and UFOs were hanging around there. And there was the Washing invasion in 1952, which happened, I think, the same year. He reckons now, he mentions the 1954 Fiorentina football event. This was at the Stadio Artemio Franchi, which is, as you know, if you're a football fan, you'll know that's the home ground of Fiorentina. It's this very large football ground and rugby ground in Florence, Italy. And if you saw my interview with Dr. Irina Scott, you'll know that Battelle Memorial Institute were involved with this, and angel hair was found falling from the UFOs. And he believes he says he's handled the angel hair, which is a substance rather like candy floss. It's very thin, gossamer-like substance. He said Project Blue Book was designed for facade of ridicule, which of course is to be expected. And then he says there other things happen involving nuclear weapons that I can't talk about. And he says this again and again and again, Lou. He says, I know this, but I can't talk about it. Which I think is why he has so many such some virulent detractors who become quite really vile with him sometimes, and they just say, "Oh, he's making the whole thing up. That's why you can't talk about it." Things like that. But it's not true, and I'll come back to that because I think literally he's trying to work within the law and do disclosure in a legal system, which I think I do agree with Sweeps that there's the principal power structure doesn't want it. So there's what's he going to do? This is interesting. Page 86. Let's go to it. Where am I now? This is the interesting scene on page 86. All right, yes, is it September of 1971? There we go. This is just not. This is when after the fallout from the Maelstrom incident. Despite almost all the planet's population having no clue, a treaty was signed by the US and the Soviet Union entitled Agreements on Measures to Reduce the Risk of Outbreak of Nuclear War between the USA and the USSR. Article 3 states, the parties undertake to notify each other immediately in the event of detection by missile warning systems of unidentified objects, or the event of signs of interference with these systems or with related communication facilities. It's interesting. Unidentified objects, then signs of interference with these systems. Why are those two points in the same sentence? If such occurrences risk an outbreak of nuclear war between the two countries, this language is a direct result of UAP interference with nuclear weapons in the US and the Soviet Union. Because there was an incident in Ukraine, actually, long after Maelstrom, I think it was in the early 80s, where contrary to in Maelstrom, where they shut down the nukes, in this particular event, they actually started them up. And they were about to launch, and the missile combat crew were desperately trying to stop the launch. And then just before they were about to go off, the whole system then went back to normal. And all this time, there was this saucer hovering overhead. There's stuff about the Rendlesham Forest Institute. 1982, UAP nuke switch on. That's it. Now, it's easy. How do you interpret this kind of behavior? I'll just see how people are getting on in chat right now. Hello, Apollo Detectives. How are you? Oh, my show on Monday. I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be coming back from. Oh, I'll be coming back from. I may not be able to get back in time. I'm at the ASAP Seriously Strange conference. I don't know. I mean, hopefully I'll be back in time by then because I know it's about 4 p.m., isn't it, Apollo Detectives? I'd love to join you because I got the times wrong last time. Sweeps. I can disclose a bit, folks. Worked for military intelligence in Saudi for Northrop. We sent up sorties almost nightly to chase bogies on radar. Most military I have experience with. On many posts, no ETs exist. Yes, Sweeps. I'm sure. People involved with this regularly, involved with aerospace defense, they can't ignore it, can they? Nothing is exceeds the men who stare at goats. That's right, the psychic assassins. Yeah. Nice lives matter. I stared at a goat for 40 years. Its heart stopped eventually. I tried the same thing with my grandmother for about 20 years, and eventually she did die. I mean, she was 90 years old. Must have been what I did. Yeah. All right, that's a big subject. Ingo Swan. Yeah, penetration. That's quite something, isn't it? Where are we now? Diego Rivera. Why is there lots of UFO activity in Brazil? Is it to do with the fannies? If you want to know what a fanny is, it's basically UAP in Spanish and Portuguese. Yeah, the fanny jokes are going to go on forever, aren't they? They're going to take over from the Uranus jokes, aren't they? Nothing as it seems. I was born in the year of the goat. I think it's Chinese astrology, mate. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Apollo Detectives. Yeah, I will do what I can to get there on time. I know it's not until the afternoon, so it shouldn't be a problem. I've got a very short train ride, so it shouldn't be a problem. Now, how do we interpret this UFOs and nukes situation? Because we've seen the Maelstrom incident, Captain Bob Salas. They shut down the missiles. We know about Captain Robert Jacobs and what he said when he worked for NASA. They shot a missile out of the sky. This was one, incidentally, that was part of a project to detonate a nuke on the moon. I mean, goodness me. How insane is that? They were going to actually detonate a nuke on the moon. They're going to send a nuclear bomb to the moon and blow it up. Why? For what purpose? They were even talking about making it really big, a really big nuke, so that it will cause a new crater to form, and they'd name it after somebody. I don't know. God, nutcases, absolute nutcases. Anyway, the aliens did what you might say was a very, very obvious elbow in the ribs, which says, if you're going to use these weapons, keep them on your own planet. That being said, though, I mean, and in fact, Lou brings this up in the book, this could be interpreted in several ways. Now, I know a lot of people, including Greer, and the sort of the fluffy bunny kind of new age flower type people. I don't want to sound derogatory, but the people, usually the people around Greer, but there's others as well, will say, well, and that's because they will stop us from destroying ourselves because they're peace-loving aliens, and they'll stop us from destroying ourselves by if it came to a nuclear exchange, they would stop the missiles in flight, or they'd stop them being launched. Now, that's one way to interpret it. That's one way to interpret it, which may be true. Goodness knows, I hope it's true. If someone's going to, if missiles, if everyone's pointing missiles at each other and they're threatening to launch them, and someone sort of barges in between them and tries to break it up from outer space, I'll happily swallow my pride and say, go ahead. But supposing they were instead planning an invasion, what would they do? They'd send reconnaissance first, wouldn't they? They'd send scouts ahead of the main force to see what's going on, to test the enemy, to test our most potent weapon systems. So maybe that's it. But the thing is, I mean, the truth of the matter is, aliens are not one thing. I mean, there's so many different kinds. I mean, they obviously come from many, many different places. There's virtually a taxonomy of them now. There's the greys, the big ones, the little ones. There's the Nordics. There's the mantids, and there's it's almost like a biology wildlife book. Like there's bird spotting, bird watching over here with all the birds. And there's this other book here with all the aliens. So they don't all want one thing. They exhibit very, very different behaviors with people who are abducted, and indeed they seem to have a wide variety of agendas. So when I say the aliens want to do this and the aliens want to do that, which aliens are you talking about? Because you will find an alien somewhere who wants to do what you want to do. EA, hello. I got stuck on a steep hill with a caravan. Did you get the clip I sent? EA, I don't have time to get into my email right now. Sorry, mate. I've logged out and I'm not logging in now. Could you upload it to your channel? If you do, I'll show it. Right, what's next? Yeah, because he says here, UAPs did not stop Hiroshima. They didn't stop the 3 Mile Island accident. They didn't stop all the other things that have happened. So what's the real motive for nuclear interference? He talks about the connection to water. There's, the fact that they come out of the sea or out of lakes. What are the aliens? Aliens in ancient history. Now, ORSAP, as you know from this, gets shut down. And indeed, to quote Lou, and I've actually got a quote here, he says, ORSAP, Jim Lakatsky and his team ran the US's official program on UAP, but at the same time, the legacy program, that's what he calls the truth embargo, was working at cross purposes to ours. And he talks about the Collins elite and religious fundamentalists who say things like, well, they're demons. This is obviously a religious thing. These are agents of hell. And I mean, David Splendid in Isolation knows about this. But there's a guy called Father Spiridon Bailey, who is someone, my nose is itching like it always does when I talk. There's a bloke called Dr. Spiridon Bailey, who's a Russian Orthodox priest who has written an entire book about this, which I actually reviewed. I reviewed it for UFO Truth. I've mentioned it on several videos. Paul Joseph Watson actually interviewed Father Bailey as well, and David Splendid Isolation actually suggested that I did that. I got in touch with him. I didn't in the end. I think this maybe the thing is we have such different views, and we'd spend the entire interview just like trying to convince each other of one thing or the other. I mean, Yeah, and Armand, yeah, could be a mixture of everything. It does seem to be that way, Armand. It does seem to be that way. So tide shifted, to quote Lou. Detractors began in the DIA, and ORSAP was basically doomed. Now this is where the backslappers and the skeptics start. They kind of get it wrong, because then they say, well, ATIP wasn't real. Well, it is. It's part of a different faction. I'll explain as we go along. But he mentions the Book of Enoch and the Watchers, the possibility of disclosure from academia, page 101. Was that right? Just going back to the text. All right. All right, here we go. Yeah. He talks about the cutting-edge team of researchers with experts, and he says, but that was never going to happen with our government investigation. For the sake of national security, we would rarely get permission to farm out this work to outsiders. We didn't have the budget for it. One day, I arrived at the office to find Jim and a couple of others kicking around ideas for a chart Jim had conceived. At the top, he typed the word God. At the bottom was humans, and in the middle, angels. This is where the conversation became mired. If we went down this avenue as a possibility, one had to ask hypothetical questions. Did angels belong halfway between humans and God? An angel visits Mary to say that she'll give birth to the infant Jesus. In the famous story of Abraham and Isaac, the angel verbally halts the elder from sacrificing his son. So this is similar to the Spiridon Bailey, what he was talking about, as David's Blended Isolation knows. This is funny. He mentions orbs. He mentions Foo Fighters, of course, which go back a long way. Skinwalker, orbs at Kalaris, Skinwalker. Apparently, the blue orbs are the bad ones, according to Lou. They are different colours, but the blue ones are the ones which often cause injury and negative problems. And he talks about the medical problems for the ORSAP team at Skinwalker. Apparently, the people at the Skinwalker work at the ORSAP team who went there came down with illnesses. And Lou saw orbs at his home. That's really weird. And his wife was interviewed by Ross on the program, confirming that. And I was immediately thinking of John Burroughs, and indeed he brings up John Burroughs, who's recently won a lawsuit, as you probably know, to receive a full. He was injured in the line of duty, and he's got the appropriate pension now. This is the first ever time this has been done, where a U.S. serviceman is injured in the line of duty as a result of a UFO encounter and gets the full pension. He talks about the Nimitz. 1.1 trillion watts is apparently the power that will be needed to run the Tic Tac as it's described. In 1964, the FBI find a butane tank. Right, that is often said to look like a Tic Tac. The butane tank is a nickname for a craft that looks very like a Tic Tac, but dates back to 1964. And apparently, the FBI report finding a down craft shaped like a butane tank as long as a telephone pole. A white, and he thinks it may be related to the Zamora sighting. So Tic Tac shaped UFOs are not new. They're very possibly old technology. Many people have said they think that the Tic Tac was actually a secret space program. Now, I dispute that for several reasons. Firstly, the behavior of the craft. If it wouldn't be flying near a US naval battle group on an exercise, that's how people get killed. Secondly, it's antiquity. As I said, they're nothing new. Now, this is where this was new information. I think might actually silence some of the detractors, because you may have heard, of course, the idea that ATIP didn't really exist, and ATIP was just created as essentially, it's been described as being like, I think Stephen Cambion said it was like the Pentagon pool, the Pentagon poker circle. So it's a completely private organization that was was not part of the defense establishment. But it turns out that this was actually something created by a rebel group who were within ORSAP. Where is this? Right. We're now on he talks about Lieutenant General James Clapper, Under Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, who he liked. All right, let me just go through this. Where does it say this? I heard that Woods had accepted the position of Deputy Director of the DIA. I took this to be a consolation prize of sorts. Clapper was generous and professional as always. Rather than oust an old rival, Clapper recognised Woods' worth and offered him a key role. My optimism was short-lived, however. Within 30 to 45 days of my mentor's reassignment to DIA, the atmosphere at the agency changed with respect to our work. Woods brought in colleagues from the CIA. Suddenly, the response to Lakatsky's well-crafted reports to hire us up elicited a shift in tone. As I mentioned earlier, where only a month before higher-ups accepted the reports with their interest, they suddenly asked, "Why are you doing this?" Jay and I both sensed the vibe that Jim did not. He was probably too much of an optimist to perceive the hyenas and wolves circling him. His career was on the line. I remember meeting in the fall of 2009 that Jay and I attended with Jim, in which we openly talked about the wisdom of Jim dropping the investigations ORSAP had gotten involved with, that many considered to be dealing with the paranormal, instead focusing solely on UAP threats. I was convinced that if we produced some solid work under the ATIP banner, there wasn't a person in Pentagon or Congress who could look away, and it would help Jim's efforts. We found plenty of evidence of extremely advanced craft performing in ways we couldn't replicate and entering controlled US airspace at home or abroad without any repercussions. These facts alone warranted additional DoD resources. Good point. Jim refused to lose focus on the overall scope of ORSAP/ATIP. He felt that if he could show the DIA-DoD leadership results in his efforts, a rational individual could see the results of his anomalous investigations. The only problem, the briefing Jim wanted to share with the leadership included words like archangels, angels, demons, and the spiritual realm. Yeah, this was a point not lost on Leslie Kane, which is why she published the somewhat misleading article that she did, along with Ralph Blumenthal. Maybe she did the right thing, though. Alien implants, right? He mentions alien implants. Now, there's a photograph of one of those, which the photograph, believe it or not, is somewhere in here. Hang on. It's somewhere in this. Where is it? Bloody, bloody, blah. It's somewhere in this interview, if I can find it. Oh, he talks about part of the brain as well. Here we go. He talks about part of the brain, which apparently, I forgot what he calls it. I'll come on to that in a minute.
There by their permission to do something.
You've seen one of those implants, haven't you?
I have been privy to some very interesting things.
This photo, he says,
Yeah.
shows one of those interesting things. It's allegedly a biological sample removed from a US service.
Stephen Cambion is probably saying right now, "That's a walnut. It's a walnut."
Service member and submitted for analysis. This is possibly an alien implant.
Well, if you look, there's actually a piece of the chip sticking out and what appears to be these fibers that were moving on their own. And then it looks like this chip or whatever this is.
Or like Morgellons fibers. That's how he describes them in the book.
Foreign object is encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
Could that not be something biological, microbiological, or parasitic?
Well, it certainly, the outside looks like it's some sort of masking device. In essence, you have a foreign object, which it's a metallic object in there, and it seems to be encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
But how do you know it's not just a bit of metal that somebody's knocked into on a building site?
Well, in this particular case, this was moving on its own. It was actually...
Yeah, that's it. Now, this fits in with descriptions of people who specialize in these implants, people like Dr. Roger Lear, people like that. Now, the fact that there's these objects, they don't initiate immune response. They seem not to have any circuitry within them, so they operate in a strange way. The isotopic ratio of the material indicates they don't come from Earth. You may have seen the film Patient 17. Oddly enough, the skeptics, this is what I mean by the convenient, not the conveniently told confession story, the kind of like coincidence theory the skeptics keep coming up with. Because they said, right, their explanation for the guy with the splinter in his leg, right, was he must have had an accident, because the splinter was taken out by Roger Lee and analysed. It turned out to have an isotopic ratio indicating it was not from this solar system even. Not from planet Earth. The skeptic said, well, maybe he fell over and got a splinter in his leg, and it happened to be a little bit of a meteorite. I mean, goodness me. I mean, this is really this is pushing the coincidence level way above any sensible statistical ceiling, doesn't it? But the skeptics will say this. They'll say this because they will accept any explanation at all which doesn't involve aliens, no matter how outrageous, no matter how unlikely. They will accept that as the default position because it doesn't involve aliens. Even though it's so unlikely, I mean, look, using their own logic of Occam's razor, I mean, isn't it much more likely it's simply just aliens? Anyway, guys, how are you getting on? We are living the Blue Meanies. Oh god, that was that was from that Beatles thing, wasn't it? Yellow Submarine. Hello, Dennis Carr. Sweep says, people don't know Ben, Ingo Swann, Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ worked on the Stargate project remote viewing, lol. They all came here from Scientology. Our viewing was called externalization then. Yes, the Stanford Research, the SRI, Stanford Research Institution. This is where Geller got involved with Hal Puthoff and Geller. This is why Geller became a sort of second-rate celebrity magician while he was doing this stuff secretly on the side. They said, just go out there and go on TV. You do your 5 tricks or so, which is all he can do, and then get people like James Randi to debunk him when all his real stuff is going on behind the scenes in the CIA and Mossad. And he's come in 2013. He actually did an interview where he said, I mean, he did one earlier actually with John Ronson, which he refused to confirm. He just did it privately. And he said, John, if you tell people this, I will deny it. But then in 2013, he did an interview with the BBC where he said, yeah, he did remote. He was a psychic spy for Mossad and the CIA. He spied on Egypt during the 6-Day War because he's Israeli. He spied on Egypt. Nothing, it seems. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. Yes, good old Clown's Day Off. Yeah, the Clown's Day Off fallacy. That's it. Yeah. He got a meteorite splinter is really the same as the clown. Yeah, doing the Loch Ness Monster. It's I describe it in detail in my Dorset tour. All right. And the Morgellons, see, the Morgellons fibers have been spotted. Morgellons fibers are also connected to chemtrails as well. They've been found in chemtrail residue. Look at Sophia Smallstorm and what she did. Lou did interviews with witnesses to UFO stuff, UFO encounters. Who they are, he won't say, of course. There was footage of a triangular crater over a nucleus facility. That's page 141. I made a note of pages where I thought it was particularly important. Here we go. Right. The more we worked on these cases, however, the more often high-ranking military personnel in the know reached out to us, usually because they were concerned about the safety of much younger people who were reported to them. One day I showed up to work to find that Jay had shared a stunning video via email. The footage was shot by a naval aviator on a routine mission through a cockpit camera, as if over the shoulder. The audio begins with the typical jabber and call sign lingo. The pilot is trying to get a visual on what the radar's seeing. Still no visual, said the voice. I'm right on it, but no visual. And then a wedge-shaped craft zooms by the cockpit as close as 50 feet. Another UAP video hit my inbox. Presumably, this is not his regular email he uses at home. This is like the classified, encrypted one he uses at work. It was a drone conducting a surveillance of a nuclear facility in a particularly hostile country when its camera picked up 3 luminous objects, just 3 dots. Inexplicable, the dots began to fly in a regimented formation of a triangle. How about you? Wow. How you do guys doing in chat? All right. See how we're living. He drove Targ around the Stanford campus blindfolded. Yeah. Now, Ray Hyman, the skeptic, said that there were gaps in the blindfold, but it was done so many times it wasn't. Yeah. He fell on a passing meteorite splinter just as he happened to have a spontaneous psychotic episode involving hallucinations of alien craft, despite having no history of mental illnesses. Rhiannon, so long as it doesn't involve aliens, you can just say anything you want if you're a skeptic. Debunking becomes an exercise of the imagination. So skeptics are the ultimate fantasists. Sweeps. Bob Lazar's Element 115, Lieutenant Colonel Corso's revelation in his book The Day After Roswell are all on target with their proofs. That I don't have time to go into all that now, Sweeps, but they're very interesting stories, very interesting indeed. But thanks. He talks about the idea that theoretically you could create a weapon to attack UAPs. Because of course, if they are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses, either from natural sources like lightning bolts or from radar facilities, as he claims Roswell, the government accidentally damaged a UFO, and that's why it crashed. He talks about other things. He talks about his personal life a lot. His mother got ill and then died. His wife was in a terrible accident. She suffered a traumatic brain injury. Luckily, she survived. He talks about the Cash Landrum incident. Now, this of course happened. Funnily enough, it happened the very same day as Rendlesham Forest, but it happened over the Atlantic in the States. But 2 women, Mrs. Cash and Landrum, they were called, actually had an encounter with a diamond-shaped object, and it seemed to have firstly, it damaged the car. It caused damage to the paintwork. Now, this happened with Betty and Barney Hill as well, where there were strange marks on the car, which were magnetic. Secondly, the 2 ladies got very sick afterwards. He mentions Gary Nolan, Colin Keller, Jacques Vallée. Now, this is interesting. Page 157. The brains of remote viewers are different to other people's brains. He brings this up on Ross's thing as well. Okay. Gary Nolan noticed that 105 patients with high functioning had high IQs and were involved in the remote viewing program had an overdevelopment part of the brain known as the caudate putamen. This area that they were associated with intuition. This has been proposed by scientists as far ago as the 60s. We all have caudate putamens in our brains, but Gary theorized that people with this kind of enhanced structure might be exquisitely adept at sizing up a situation and drawing conclusions from sparse information. Right. And he claims there's a connection there with remote viewing. Right. He mentions alien crash retrievals and alien brains. He said that the alien brains are smooth and they're not convoluted. He also says that there have been Roswell incidents in Mexico and Kazakhstan. Now, the thing in Kazakhstan, I think Ross mentions in his book, this was when it was the Soviet Union, but there was a weird. There was it was the British forces actually picked it up, but they actually went over the border from Afghanistan into the Soviet Union, and they picked up this alien craft before the Russians could get to it. Ross mentions that in his book. And there's a memo, actually. There's a official British Foreign Service memo confirming this. There were orbs at the Los Alamos event, Los Alamos laboratory, where they were designing in 1945, where they were building the bomb, the Trinity bomb. Now, Lou was described as a super user, which meant that his security clearance was so good that he's allowed access to all the computer systems. He's called a super user. Now, he said something interesting. I don't think this guy could ever be an NHS manager, because he shunned the privileges of ranks. Now, he says because of the position he was in, it was called G1. It was the highest pay grade literally within the Pentagon, within the civil service structure, without it being a political appointment. That's what he said. He reached the highest level possible, without being basically a political appointee. But he shunned the privileges of rank, so he wouldn't travel on private jets, because he was entitled to private jets where they serve you with food and wine and stuff like that. But he didn't. He said, I feel much more comfortable in a C-130, like sitting on a bench with the rank and file enlisted men in the C-130 and things like that. So he would travel with standard military transport. Now, sweeps will know this, I'm sure, and maybe some of the rest of you do. If you've ever seen the way soldiers travel, it's not exactly first-class British Airways. They have basically benches to sit on with seat belts, and they in this completely bare cargo hangar of a cargo hold of a plane. Yeah. Rhiannon Raven says, the more folds and wrinkles in a brain, the more intelligent the creature. So a smooth brain doesn't go well with alien intelligence. Right. Well, that's what, that's. Would you want to be abducted and probed by a clever alien or a stupid alien? I don't know. Rhiannon, if he was on the highest pay ground, how come he and his family were almost destitute after he left? That's some serious bad financial planning. I'll come on to that. I'm going to come on to that. Yes, this is now this is a thing, right? Lou has been infamous before because apparently he was involved in the extraordinary renditions at Guantanamo Bay, the waterboarding and things like that. So apparently it's in his Wikipedia page. Actually, where is it? I should have this already open. All right, let's have a look. He ran. He served in the Republic of Korea, Kuwait, and domestic United States, and as a civilian intelligence officer in Afghanistan, South America, and the Guantanamo Bay detention camp at its Camp 7. Elizondo was recruited as a civilian intelligence officer and special agent into sensitive intelligence positions following 9/11. He was an operations officer at the Joint United States Army Counterintelligence Program and was a battle captain managing tactical operations. He ran anti-terrorist missions against the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. So was he involved? And now, see, he doesn't talk about that, I don't think. He mentions it in the book briefly. But was he involved in these extraordinary renditions? That's the thing. In which case, was it right or wrong to do that? The doctrine of double effects. If you didn't waterboard these guys, would there be more bombings or stuff like this? What about people's civil rights? What about, if they can take people and not charge them, maybe they can do that to us, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not going to go into that this evening, the rights and wrongs of the whole thing, but I wouldn't be happy if someone just snatched me out of my bed and took me somewhere and I didn't have access to a lawyer, and they shoved a flannel over my face and poured water onto it from a watering can. Incidentally, the part of the NDAA was the purchasing of like 500 watering cans. Now, I don't think they were used for the seeds and weeds at the military base. So, yeah, the Department of Defense ordered 500 watering cans from a garden center. Yeah. Oh, anyway, Dave. Hello, David. Are you the David I think you are? The one who we went up on Milk Hill and saw orange orbs. Are you that David? David says, RD Hall stated a few years ago that there was a device that came up from underground at a secret military base in Senny Bridge in North Wales. Basically brought UFOs down. He did. It was in one. I was trying to find it. Funny enough, I was actually trying to find the episode the other day. I don't know which one it was, on Rich Planet, because someone asked me about that. Yeah. Rhiannon Raven. They'd have to be pretty damn clever to get here. Well, have you ever seen the film Morons from Outer Space? It's quite funny because it's a really funny comedy about aliens that land from another planet, and they are the exact opposite. They're just completely thick as anything you can imagine. Very, very funny film. That being said, a lot of people, even Stanton Friedman said this, the Greys might not be the Greys might just be sort of like the what they call in Brave New World the gammas or the epsilons. In Brave New World they have like people bred, all the people are bred into different kind of subspecies for certain roles, and the epsilons are like these low intelligent people who do like the drudgery. What if the Greys are that? Stanton Friedman thought that. Oh, we know. So, hello, see how we are living. How you doing? You wouldn't last a minute in Luton. I don't think did the aliens go near Luton? It's Senny Bridges in West Wales, not North Wales. Yeah, there's a thing there, and there's an army training base there they use for the Brecon Beacons. There's also this weird kind of structure there, which Richard thought might have some connection to UFOs. It's a very interesting episode of Rich Planet TV. It really is. He mentions that apparently there are now 6 observables, not 5. So there's the 5 we already know about and another one. Let's have a look if I can find it. I'm just going through the Kindle. It's actually quite useful having the Kindle, actually, because here we go. Observables. There we go. It's actually quite useful having the Kindle because you can search these things. We called these things the observables. The first is hypersonic velocity, etc. The next is instantaneous acceleration. That's 2. High-speed turns that would normally require a conventional aircraft miles to complete. There we go. Blah blah. Low observability, no heat signatures or acoustic signature, electronic, thermal, visual, signature management. Anti-gravity, and that is no means of obvious lift. They're still flying. I think that's 5, isn't it? The 6th verbal is not a flight characteristic. Biological effects. That's I must have missed one. I can't remember what they all are. But anyway, the 6th one is biological, which would involve like they have an effect on the human body. Right. Contractors have the evidence. Now this is weird. Now this is Richard Dolan, actually. Let me just show you the photo of Richard Dolan, because I watched Richard Dolan's video about this. There we go. This is where he here we go. The Legacy Program. Lockheed Martin, TRW, McDonnell Douglas, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon. We know these are to be expected. BAE Systems is a British company, the Aerospace Corporation. And he mentions Monsanto. And he says he may have been historically involved, likely dealing with biological specimens, although Monsanto is now owned by Bayer. So that's a bit odd, isn't it? Welsh Ripper, nos on dda, sorry, hwyr a rippers and mynd Welsh tongue tonight. I think that's a mixture of English and Welsh. Good evening, sorry I'm late to the rippers and go, well, and mynd and going, rippers and going Welsh. Is that right? Nos on dda, good evening, sorry I'm hwyr late to the rippers. Oh. All right, here's a translation. That's good. David. Oh, no, that's another David. We met at Awakenings. Oh, right. Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it? In Manchester. Didn't Bush have something to do with Monsanto, says Leanne? God, not half. Half of his administration were on in the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, was on their board. which is why all this GM stuff was approved. Right, what's next? I'm off share screen. Oh, no, yeah. Now, the big problem he has is that I've said this before, he's not a whistleblower. He is working within the system. He is simply a spokesman who is speaking openly about the presence of the UFO phenomenon and the government's relationship to it, but not revealing any information. I mean, one of his catchphrases, he said, I know more about this, but I can't tell you. And he also says something quite worrying. Firstly, he says two things in chapter 13 that worry me. Firstly, his views on 9/11 are very conventional. So is he lying, or does he really believe that? Maybe he can't face the fact that his government would do something like that. He has been described by several people as passionately patriotic, like religiously patriotic. He also reckons that whistleblowers would be threatened with execution without trial. In other words, I think that's just a way of saying that they'll just take you out. They'll do some wet work on you. I think that's the thing. He mentions, for example, in chapter 14, that he talks about the energy for UAPs. He mentions Albuquerque. That is Miguel Albuquerque Moya, this Mexican guy who came up with, I think it was used in Star Trek, the idea of Star Trek with a warp drive and things like that. He mentioned he thinks that the liquid metal and angel hair is caused by UAP in distress. So that would be, for example, the Maury Island incident, which actually happened just shortly after Roswell, in which a UAP released liquid metal, actually killed the dog of one of the men on the boat. And angel hair, of course, in Florence, that football match in Florence, you know. He mentions of course, the Nimitz encounters. There was the Roosevelt encounters more recently. He says he didn't trust Harry Reid. And then this is a bit weird. He said he came up with something called Op Plan Interloper. And this involves the Roosevelt incident, because he said that they were setting up situations. And I didn't know that. I honestly didn't think that his organization would have the authority to do this. But he said they were setting up setting up situations in which they would essentially create a bait for the UFOs by having lots of nuclear-powered vessels in the same place. So they have like a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. They'd have several submarines which are nuclear-powered, all nuclear-powered in the US fleet, and lots of like nuclear weapons in one place at a particular point in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and then the UAPs would appear. They'd be drawn to it like flies to a jam jar. You know, it's literally a honeypot situation, a honey trap. Now, and they said that's how the Roosevelt images got captured. You know, the Tic Tac footage got captured. Now, I'm just like, how would they have the authority to do that? I mean, this would mean that they must have had very, very powerful people within the Naval Operations Administration to cooperate with this. It worked, apparently. It worked. Luckily, none of the evil aliens turned up. Otherwise, that would be murder, wouldn't it? Basically, those sailors would be sacrificed. See how we're living. There were armed guards at the Monsanto hive in Southampton. Really? Armed guards? That's a corporate headquarters in Britain. Rhiannon, yeah, exactly. They got away with all kinds of things. Yeah, Rhiannon, his views are very conventional on 9/11. But is he lying? Or does he really believe that? David Brown, the world is full of people who know more than they can tell. Either speak or STFU. Yeah. EA audits. There's a link. It's weird because no engine sound in Chinook. Is it right? Is it on your channel? EA audits. I'll find it. Hang on. And I'll show it to people if it's there. Where are we now? I can't see it now. I can't see it at the moment, EA. But let me know if you get it. Let me know if you upload it. Sorry, I can't log into my email. It's just It's on your other channel. All right, how many do you have? EA audits, UK 2. All right, okay. Do you have another channel? What's your other one called? Could you post a link? I mean, it should show up. If any of you are admin spanners, could you please approve? Could you please approve EA's link? Passionate naivety. I mean, I've suffered from a bit of that. I've suffered from passionate naivety in my time. Nothing. When I was a new porter, I was very gung ho. I thought the NHS was like the work of the divine beings and things like that. David, I wonder if the Black Ops guy Richard D. Hall interviewed is still alive. I doubt it, as his health wasn't good years ago. But for argument's sake, Ben, go and seek him out. I don't know where he is. He was only Tony Dodd knew him, and he gave all his archives to Richard and this other guy, Derek Goff, who died as well. Only Richard knows that now. Only Richard knows it. Diego Rivera, are you a believer in the ancient alien hypothesis, Ben? Well, I haven't watched I haven't had time to watch the 150 episodes or whatever it is. The series is on now. Yeah. Oh, you've emailed it. EA, I can't answer emails. I'm sorry. I have to log into my emails. I can't do that in the middle of a live stream. I'm really sorry. Could you please post it in the comments, please? If not, I can't. I won't be able to show it. I can only see one channel for you, I'm afraid. Is there a link in your about page to your other channel? Let's have a look. What's this? Is this your other channel here? What's this? No, it's the same channel. You need to post a link. So,
what's happening down there?
You need to post a link to the, please, to the. Okay, good. You need to post a link, mate. Sorry. Oh, here we are. Audit Addicts. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. Just try that one. Oh, is this right? Right.
There we go.
Right. 4 days ago, 5 days ago, 2 days ago. Nothing recent. Let me know when it's processed. If you've uploaded it, let me know. It may not have processed yet, but I'm taking it. That I'm on the right channel now. Is that the right channel? Okay. Hello, Jim Bob. How are you? David. Jaime Shed, he spilled the beans about how much the dark government are involved with alien dealings. That's it. Yeah, he was head of Israel's Space Force, wasn't he? Yeah. Why did he's not the sort of person who'd make this stuff up. Right. Yeah, this is Oplan Interloper. Oplan Interloper. What he's basically saying is that Lou is responsible directly, and his group with the ATIP or ORSAP was responsible for some of the Roosevelt incident because it was set up. It was set up by his organization with the help of the Navy to attract UAPs. Yeah. Right. He mentions a skeptic UFO meeting, page 202. Let's go to that. Go forward. Here we go. Page 202. What's this? In our meeting, I watched a rep from the CIA shook his head and launched in a half-assed explanation of the possibilities. The only way I see this being even remotely possible is if you had a hybrid balloon with some sort of inductor fan at its center, he said, not quite believing his own words. Perhaps it's some sort of Mylar football that has its own navigation and propulsion. I kept my mouth shut just to see where this was going. His eyes boggled as he tried to keep track of his own tortured logic. The mental gymnastics were Herculean. Balloons, inducted fans, Mylar football, right. Well, what about their fuel and loiter capability? This thing came out in the middle of nowhere, I said. His response was even more comical. Perhaps they're using some sort of tether or beamed energy to give it power, like a floating platform nearby. This thing was smack in the middle of the ocean. The object itself was indicated to be very hot. However, the air surrounding was very cold. This didn't make sense. Now, that is a clown's day off fallacy. That is exactly what it is. It's a perfect example of skeptic there. Right. Now, he mentions like some of the science behind it, like Hal Puthoff. He had meetings with Hal Puthoff. And he talks about how they may create kind of anti-gravity bubbles. And he thinks they may use hydrogen in water for subnuclear fuel, that is splitting the proton. This is something no one's ever been able to do on Earth, splitting a subatomic particle to release the energy from within the actual subatomic particle, or heavy water for fusion, he says. And ETs might see us as a threat because we're advancing. Chapter 17, are we ready for the truth? Are the aliens good, bad, or neutral? We've already done that. He talks about in autobiography. He talks about Secretary of Defense James Mattis and Jim Semivan, he's still with the TTSA. Jim Semivan, who is the son of Jim Holvan. So that's a silly joke. And then he talks about like getting the videos. He got the videos declassified through DOPSA. So again, those videos, the famous ones, or the clips of probably longer videos, are approved for publication. And he said Chris Mellon helped. There was opposition from the system, and indeed this meant basically he had to quit his job. He had to quit his job at the Pentagon. He was only sort of in his 40s when he did this, and he was planned to retire at the age of 62, where he'd get a full pension. And he had a plan with Jay Stratton. What he would do is, he said, he would leave and rough it as a civilian ufologist, and Jay Stratton would work on the inside and keep working for, well, it wasn't ORSAP anymore. It became AIMSOG and then eventually Arrow. But it was called UAPTF for a while. It had different names depending on where it was managed and things like that. But Jay Stratton would stay on the inside, well, Elizondo would be outside in the civilian world, and they'd be working together, which no doubt someone will say that's a form of espionage. I don't know. But they said they'd do everything openly and not break the rules. Mellon had Form 1910, which approved the videos from DOPSA. On his last day at the Pentagon, right, his boss was really angry. I mean, his boss was so angry because, and they threatened him with investigation. They harassed him and everything like that. They didn't want him to leave. And so he met up, basically got together with Jim Semivan and Tom DeLonge and formed the TTSA. And this was really difficult for his family because his wife didn't want him to move. They were living in this place called Kent Island, which is this lovely little spot on the East Coast in the Atlantic, and they had to move to California. And she had to leave her job. She had a job that she really loved, and and so they had long discussions. And when he was walking out of the Pentagon, they dragged him into the office, and they kept saying, "Why did you resign? Why did you resign?" This reminded me of The Prisoner. Why did you resign, Number 6? Tell us why did you resign? And then, of course, there was the New York Times article that he says a lot of his things were deleted. A lot of his information was deleted. And this is where it gets dodgy, because he said he was already under investigation for things in Guantanamo Bay. We've got to go through to page 278 for this. And he says that's actually a breaching court order, because the court ordered that all his records be maintained because he was being investigated for things at Guantanamo Bay, maybe because of the scandal over the torture and things like that and the extraordinary renditions. And he says, yes, sometime shortly thereafter, someone at OUSDI, that's his old office, allegedly authorized the complete deletion of all my electronic files, folders, and emails under the justification they had no historic value, or so claimed a Freedom of Information Act response from the Pentagon itself. If true, this was troubling because my files had long been singled out for careful preservation by a court order because of the work I'd done on Guantanamo Bay. This protective order had been in place for some time. My emails have been flagged as evidence in criminal prosecutions for those criminally charged with being responsible for terrorism. Everyone knew that my files were earmarked for protection. If they were destroyed, they must have been afraid of the content of those files. They were willing to break the law and jeopardize the entire terrorism case. In January 2018, Jen, that's his wife, and I took our daughters to California for search for a temporary place to live. Back home in Maryland, as I made arrangements to ship our possessions, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything fresh and challenging lay before her. Yeah. So that's how he left. He left the Pentagon. But there's all this stuff about there's all kinds of things about his life that everyone I think I must have made notes about this. I remember anyway. But yeah, he talks then about in chapter 22, the first History Channel show, which we all probably seen. It's really interesting to read about this process actually from the inside from Elizondo. He's never talked so frankly about what it was like for him. And he said that drones were flying over his new home. History was rewritten about ATIP. We all know about how people have lied. According to Lou, all these things about ATIP are lies. But ATIP was just his own private project as a hobby. That's not true. It was an actual faction within the Pentagon that wanted to carry on the work of ORSAP. They essentially just changed its name. A bit like, not unlike what happened when Gareth, remember when Gareth actually, those of you who listen to the Mindset podcast, know that Gareth took a major hiatus at one point. He basically shut the whole thing down for 2 years. So Trevor and I and Joe and the others, we set up Third Rail Radio, which is kind of a replacement for that. So we carried on doing the programs without Gareth. It's the same sort of thing. This is weird. Now, for those of you who talk about it's a grift, it's a circle jerk, it's a UFO money-grabbing, monetizing thing, right? They do this whole thing for money. And that's meant to be Stephen Cambion. That's what he talks about. He's the biggest of these backslappers, but there's many others. They lost their house. They didn't have the money for the rent for their house in California, so they went and lived in a caravan at a farm where there was an outdoor toilet and a septic tank to go to the toilet in. So where is the financial incentive here? This is the point people say about David Icke. David Icke is grifting off the conspiracy dollar. He did it all for the money. This is a guy who could be a millionaire if he kept his mouth shut and stayed at the BBC. He'd be a multi-millionaire now. He'd be like Gary Lineker. He'd probably be doing that job. So these people who speak out about UFOs, firstly, they lose their pensions like he did. They lose their income. They have their daughters. Their daughters were going. The two daughters were going off to college. They needed those fees for the college. Why didn't he just stay at the Pentagon? He could have afforded it all. Now this is a bit where it gets a bit controversial again, right? We know that there was a split with TTSA, and we know that Semivan stayed behind along with Putoff. But Elizondo and Mellon left. Now, according to Lou Elizondo, Tom DeLonge actually sacked them. He made them leave. Now, I don't know much about that. I didn't make a note of the page number. It's somewhere in the book, in chapter 22. He actually caused them to leave. I don't know if I can find it. Can I? All right. Oh, dear. It's called All the Small Things, which, of course, is a joke about his song. I can't search through this all, but yeah, it says here that Jen, his wife, had to get a job in a sports shop, stocking shelves to bring in extra income. And she had problems with repetitive hand and arm movements because of her head injury a few years earlier. He says, I received an unpleasant Christmas present. Just a few days before Christmas, I got a call from Tom, who was friendly but blunt. Our business relationship was over. Despite all our successes, the business had not brought in the money we expected or needed. Tom and I had done beautiful work together. The second season of Unidentified just aired and was well received. The show escalated the conversation about UAP. I wish things had gone differently, but I give Tom credit for his role in the disclosure movement. Our conversation ended with a mix of regret and excitement. Another chapter closed. That, I think, seems to be a very diplomatic way of saying that DeLong sacked him. Oh, some more people here. Hello, everyone. How are you all? We've got 35 viewers, which is nice. Hello, Lisa Sargent. How'd you do? Welcome. Love the prisoner. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. Calling number 6. Evening DJ. A bit late, but I had to take a post pie and chips. Well, fair enough. I don't want to upstage your dinner. DJ, I remember when David Icke did the sports on Saturday. My goodness me, you're almost as old as I am. Oh, David says, I know we are all still in August, but how about a Christmas Hapanwo meetup for your subscribers in Oxford at a pub you choose? Good idea, mate. Yeah, remind me. Yeah, well, yeah. And we have more Welsh, David Icke and Zin da. Adi, my Din da adi he. Adi eh? Pa. I misgendered him. I misgendered a man in Welsh. Oh my God. Adi eh? Adi he. No. Adi eh? Yeah, he's a good man. Yeah. So yeah. So you've got to ask that question about David Icke as well. You know, it's a similar life story actually. David, he quits his job as a top sports presenter with a promising career because he believes in something. Elizondo does the same, unless Sweeps and many other people are right. And if this is some kind of scam, it's not a very lucrative one. I mean, maybe if I play devil's advocate here and Sweeps is advocate, his dedication and patriotism has led him to say, Lou, you're going to have to experience 10 years of poverty for this, I'm afraid. Will you do your duty for your country and pretend to be a sincere UFO believer? Will you do that? So he says, yes, for my country, I'll do anything. I'll live in a caravan. I'll shit in a hole. I'll send my wife off to work in a sports store. Yeah. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, chapter 23 is about the congressional initiative. Jay Stratton started the UAPTF on the inside, so still there's this sort of inside-outside thing, which is all above board, of course. He mentions several people who have become quite heroic in this business: Kirsten Gillibrand, Tim Burchett, and he says this: as far as I know, the following U.S. presidents were briefed in to this secret: Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, LBJ, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Trump. Those people all briefed in. So who wasn't? Well, we can work out by the process of elimination. The legacy program did not initiate Nixon, Obama, Clinton, Ford, George W., or Biden. Well, of course, they're not going to initiate Biden, would they? You go, what did you say? Aliens? One of those? Kamala, where are my socks? Oh. So, of course, they're not going to initiate Biden, but the others they might. Oh, yeah, this is where the Carol Rosin thing comes in again, and the Werner von Braun, the 2001 press conference. Star Wars was about UAP, not just missiles. Then he mentions the 60-minute interviews with Fravor and Dietrich, creating the NDAA. Right, this is it. Jay Stratton quit, the UAPTF ended, Ames Sarg replaced it. There was the Christmas 2021 NDAA. I've done entire videos about that. The May 2022 first congressional hearing with Moultrie and Bray. I covered that in detail. Then Arrow was created in July. There was a new and better NDAA proposed for financial year 2023. The date was pushed back from 1947 to 1945. Late 2022 was the last time of hope, he says. There was pushback from the Pentagon and the contractors, and of course the two Mikes and the others. As I said, Luis Elizondo appears to be very magnanimous in all these situations. Like, he says he doesn't trust Harry Reid or Gary Reid, this other guy. He didn't, and Tom DeLong. They went out under a cloud. Him and Mellon went out under a cloud. Then Congress backed the 2023 NDAA. Senator altered it. It was signed by the president in modified form. Yeah. So that was a bit of progress. But then 2023, the ONI UAP reports, which I've actually done entire videos on. Then enter David Grush. Of course, I've done videos on that. Then Luis Elizondo's dad dies, which he mentioned. He talks about his father's death in chapter 24. July 2023. That's when you got the big congressional hearing. Fravor Grush Graves giving testimony. Then, of course, the UAP disclosure bill, as it was proposed, with the Schumer amendment, which is like nothing you've ever seen before. Orders to private contractors and an executive review board. Backlash from the two mics, etc. And of course, we know what happened to it. It was completely and utterly gelded to be a pale husk of its former self. But Luis Elizondo remains positive. And in chapter 25, he said that the legacy program is afraid. It's scared of the people. And at the end of the book, he just has acknowledgements. There's some appendices, which is the documents, the various documents that he wrote, his letter of resignation. There's an index, and then it finishes with photos of his family. Now, I've watched a couple of people talking about this. Now, Mick West has done the entire debunking of this, which I won't cover because I want to do the rebunk because someone else has rebunked it, which is interesting, has rebunked it. Has rebunked the whole thing. Rebunk, that's a good word. I just used it subconsciously. What it means is it was Ashton Forbes came up with that word, rebunk. It's good, isn't it? It basically means debunking the debunkers. Mick West did this video. But first of all, Alien Addict, right? This Alien Addict did this interview. You may be familiar with this, and said that Luis Elizondo seems like a nice guy. But is he? Is it just a facade he puts on? Now, Kev Baker, and one of the last interviews I did with Kev Baker, we talk about this. And apparently the book was late. It was supposed to be published before, but that could have been the extra review at DOPSA. Now, he mentions that his father had connections to intelligence, which, of course, he did because he was part of Brigade 2567, the anti-Castro Cubans. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's suspicious of his part. Now, this is interesting. There's the UAP files. This is a channel I've just discovered, actually. I'll show it to you, actually. I'll just check. I'm just trying to check. Is it a short? I'm just checking EA's channel again. Oh, hang on. What's this? I think I found it. Is EA Audit still there? I think I found it. It was a short, mate. You should have told me it was a short. Let's just pause and do this. Now, this is the videos that EA's. Over Essex 325. Oh, that's that. There's a line of them. There's a line of lights. What's that? What's that other line going vertically?
Oh my God. I can only see one now.
What's that noise in the background? Right, let's go back. Here's another one. Here we go.
I'm just going to wait and see if there's any engine sound. It is.
What's that? All right.
What the hell's that? No, there's no engine sound at all.
Right.
I was really expecting an engine sound. I must admit, I thought that was going to be aeroplane, but there's nothing. There's no.
Right. Now, did it change direction? I'll go back to EA. Are you still there, EA? DJ, the anti-Castro pigeon's going coo. Good old Bill Hicks. I miss him. Hugh, hello, Hugh. How you doing? Tinnitus, yeah. Well, Tripper. Sorry, off topic. A 45-year-old man has pleaded not guilty to an offence of stirring up racial hatred using images. I'm glad someone's bloody pleaded not guilty now. I respect their courage. It's alleged that Jamie Michael of Pengraig, Rhondda Cynon Taf, posted a video of himself entitled "This is what I believe." Well, are you not allowed to post things? Are you not? Pengraig, is that near? I think that's near Cardiff, isn't it? Rhondda Cynon Taf. Yeah, that's near Cardiff, isn't it? That's near Pentagon. Huge arsehole. I got 4 pics of a UFO yesterday over the town. Bright white star. That's silent. Oh, let them know. Let them know. On remand for 6 months for the man who done nothing. Well, people, did you see my exclusive live stream? People are getting locked up for nothing all the time, aren't they now? So it's really horrible. Oh, I don't know. Okay, this is Alien Addict. Now, this is all right, this is the rebunking of Mick West. I suppose I should show you the original video, shouldn't I? Here we go. All right. I won't actually play it, but I will show it to you because here we go. This is it.
Luis Elizondo.
What Elizondo got very wrong about the UFO videos. Right. Now let's go to Alien Addict. Let's go to Alien Addict. It's not Alien Addict. What's this guy called?
Hello, I'm Vicky Butler Henderson. Welcome to the new
UAP Files
Reviews
podcast.
channel.
That's it.
Here are
This is called Fact Checking Mick West. Here we go. I'll just show you the thumbnail. What Mick got wrong. Is breaking down his critique of Elizondo's Imminent. Right. I won't show all of this, but you can get that's just where you can get it. All right. Is he a UFO still there? Is he not? Oh. Yeah. If you're still there, mate, we just shown your video. Maybe he's gone. I've been going for 2 hours. Oh, hang on. Where are we now? Okay, right. Let me just go back to my notes and get the right thing. Okay, so now, so he says Mick West says Lou Elizondo provides no evidence. And again, this is the restricted problem he's facing. That seems to be. I mean, I wish it wasn't like that. I mean, I don't know whether he should simply say, "Sod my security oaths. I'm going to tell you everything I know." Then what would happen? He'd go to jail. I mean, what do you do? I mean, in his position. He mentions, Mick says there's no evidence for psychics. Yes, there is, according to this particular person. He fact-checked the videos and has judged the entire book. And I think Mick only selects what he disagrees with. I think so too. As I said, Mick West is not a reluctant skeptic. He has a passionate belief in the non-existence of UFOs. He's ideologically committed to them not being true. He mentions the infrared code, the infrared color coding or shade coding on the videos. At one point, black is hot, white is hot, but he doesn't mention where was Lou Elizondo at the time, and are these 2 different objects? Because the Tic Tac video apparently shows 2 objects, not 1. I've heard of this before. It's also It's also called the Flare 1, video. It's also called that. And he mentions the aura, which is the aura around the gimbal. He calls the bubble, and he says there's no evidence for a camera artifact. It could be jamming effects, like signature management, as it said in the DNI report. Now the Aguardia image. I don't know if you're familiar with the Aguardia image. Now this is another one. This is where basically it was taken at this airport in Cuba, I think it was, where there's this little object flying along, and it seems to go right across the landscape like that. Then it dips into the water. It sort of skims the surface for a while and then vanishes. That's the Aguardia object. Now, Mick says that Lou said this was taken from a helicopter. When it wasn't, it was taken from a fixed-wing airplane. So there's a big parallax effect here, which he thinks is what causes the appearance that it seems to be moving. Mick makes the same argument for the go fast. It's not really going fast, he says. It's just going at 40 miles an hour. But this is why I say you can't win. Well, firstly, the UAP files person said, well, I don't know his name. He says that other experts have analysed this image and they said Mick's got it wrong. He's not the only one. But also, because Mick has like a diagram of like the two objects and the lines of sight between them, and he looks very, very authentic, looks very clever. But is it just sort of like, is a lot of it just made up? But then what about other things? We can't win. You can't win with the skeptic, because the skeptics would, if it had been on a helicopter, the skeptics would still have criticised it. And I know why. Because Colin Andrews made a similar video. Colin Andrews filmed an object that looks very much like the Aguadia object, in visual light, not infrared, flying across the landscape in the West Country near a crop circle. And you know what the skeptics said? That's a plastic bag being blown by the wind, even though there was no wind that day, and this thing is moving very fast. And Mick also criticizes Lou for saying the word "no acoustic signature." Now, all that means is, all Lou is saying is that he's simply adding to the point there's no obvious means of propulsion, which is one of the observables. Now, Richard Dolan did a video as well. Right. I think EA UFO I think is gone, so I must apologise that I couldn't get into my emails about this thing, but I have actually shown his videos now. Richard Dolan did a video which I've watched.
Bring me the next.
Here we go. It's this one. Richard Dolan's reaction, review of Imminent by Luis Elizondo. This is this video here. Now, he talks about the year-long Dopsa review. This is why the book was out late, because everyone said, when's Luis Elizondo's book coming out? Yeah. And he says he's relieved to hear someone like him say it was real, and this could be historically significant. He believes this is as significant as Edward Ruppelt when he wrote a book about the inside of Project Blue Book. So he says this is extremely valuable for the UAP field. He mentions the personnel who succumbed to injuries and even died. John Burroughs was very sick in that case. And he also mentions the conduct of the UFO community and how bad it is, and the puerile people, as Ross Coulthard says. Now, I agree. I mean, I've just been discussing Kaz Clark and Gary Jones, who basically they're taking time out. The only reason they're taking time out is because people in the UFO, some people in the UFO community could be such complete and total scumbags. Anyway, I'll show you some screenshots I got from Richard. I won't show you the video because, of course, I don't want to. It just, YouTube doesn't understand fair use, basically. Here you go. Open with Windows Photo Viewer. And this is Richard Dolan's little slides here. Oops, where is it? Here we go. Existence of a decade, some major points. Existence of a decades-long UAP crash retrieval program, retrieval of technology and biological remains of non-human origin, assertion that humanity is not the only intelligent life in the universe, not the alpha species, UAPs as a genuine potential threat. This is ORSAP versus ATIP. This is an important point that the backslappers always get wrong, and the skeptics do as well sometimes. ORSAP, DIA launched precursor program funded by Senator Reid in 2007. ATIP, successor program to ORSAP, Elizondo joined in 2009. ORSAP, broader scope, included Skinwalker Ranch. ATIP focused solely on UAP, which is why Leslie Kane highlighted that. ORSAP, heavy contractor involvement. ATIP, more internally managed within the DoD. ORSAP, criticized for paranormal focus. ATIP, maintained conventional aerospace threat emphasis. And that is the one I've already shown you there. Okay, so let's go through these comments here. David, I really enjoyed your Ben Dorset presentation. Thanks. Neil did all the filming. Oh, he mentions Neil there, yeah. Oh, bless you. Thanks very much, David. I'm glad you did. Much appreciated. Now, I could look at, now, some people, like, I'll go to Twitter. I'm not, where's Twitter? Oh, I don't know. I bet, I hope I don't have to log in. I'm not logging into things while I'm doing a live stream. But I want to just cover a few things, what people are saying on Twitter. So now, one of the positive guys, of course, is Ryan Robbins, Post-Disclosure World. He's done this Elizondo book panel. That's it. He mentions, this is a good one. I strongly believe he's got his great voice. They call him UFO Jesus. I strongly believe that every one of us is in a UFO culture echo chamber. Legacy program employees are also in this echo chamber. The topic remaining fringe means various perspectives and opinions of people and institutions globally have yet to filter into the conversation. With greater transparency, these voices could finally join the conversation. Those adamant they are not in an echo chamber are wrong. Yeah, I mean, he's cool. It's what I always say. The people who say they have no biases are often the ones who are the most biased. It's an interview. He's retweeting Coulthard there. Coulthard, I mean, you probably know this already, but Coulthard, he bloody ghosted me because he thinks I'm too weird. Oh, there's a new head of Arrow, Dr. John Kozlowski. There's some quotes from the book. Now, Jay from Project Unity has a different. Where's Jay? Here we are. He's got a different take on it. He's very. I don't know if you can call him a backslapper. I don't know how much his I don't know how much his kind of cynicism is a part of his what's the word? His identity. But he actually says here at some point, where was it? Wake up, or something like this. Now, saying wake up, that's a very backslapper thing to say, is wake up. I can't find it now. Oh, where is it now? Is this it? Oh, he's retweeting Green Street. Hang on. Luis Elizondo said Eric Davis never lies. Eric Davis says Luis Elizondo never worked or helped with ATIP or WhatsApp. But Elizondo said in his book, both in his new book, Davis says Elizondo was embellishing his claims. Yeah, he is very sort of like, I think Jay is very sort of on the side of the backslappers, even if he's not one himself. Oh, here we go. Wake up, folks. It's again, it's the same thing. Wake up. That's a very backslapper thing to say. Wake up. Christina Gomez. Do I not follow her on Twitter? I don't. No. I've subbed her on YouTube. Here we go. Oh, I am following her. Here we go. She's very positive. She's always very positive. She's the one who mentions the new chief taking the reins.
Anomaly Resolution Office has appointed Dr. John T. Kozlowski, an expert in scientific fields, including quantum optics and crypto mathematics. AIR was created back in 2022, and then in 2024, it did drop a rather interesting report talking about all of the previous UFO legacy offices, projects, and groups. Since Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick's resignation in December of 2023, people have been asking, who is the next chief going to be? Well, now we finally have that answer. Under the new leadership, ARROW will continue to examine historical records related to UAP and work towards declassifying and releasing UAP-related information to the public. So, do you think he's going to be better than Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, worse, or about the same? Did you hear?
I don't know yet, do I? We don't know. We don't know yet. Yeah, Christina's the one that I mean, Alien Scientist, who's another massive backslapper, is always calling her naive. She's naive. I like Christina. Christina did a bloody good article. Where is it? She did a damn good article here. I did a review of her article. Right, just this. I'd love you to read this article, right? Because she really kicked the backslappers into touch with this one. She really did. This is Lou. It's my article called "This is Lou." It's a review of her article called "Who's Lou? No, who are you?" This is her article. I did a review of it. This is her review of the film Who's Lou? Who's Lou? No, who are you? This is bloody brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant stuff. I mean, I've got some quotes here. It's easier to get the quotes from me. Want to be Howard Stern? She says, "Get over yourselves." Yeah, right. Get over yourselves. Honestly, man, I think she's great. If I was her dad, I'd be very proud of her. I'd be very, very proud of her indeed. If I was her father, I just, she doesn't take any shit from the bloody backslappers. She slaps them back. She really does. Anyway, I've been good for over 2 hours. Is that it? Hope that's everything now in my notes. Yeah, I don't want to miss anything, you see. But I'm going to have to stop in a minute. I don't know if I think that's it. I've done the notice comments, described the book, and described the reviews of the book. And that, as they say, I think is it. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through your comments. Oh, Neil. 3 cameras on tripods, tight clip microphone. Honestly, Neil, I couldn't. You really made it so much better. How many backs can a backslap slap? That sounds like that's a tongue twister. It's how many backslappers did it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know. I would think of a punchline, but punchlines are psyops. Oh. Jay saw up his own arse. He says, "See how we're living." He blocked me when I asked him if he ever suffered from imposter syndrome. I don't know what that is. See how we're living. Do you know what? I must say, I did. He seems to have changed his tune a bit because I thought his interview with Ross Coulthart and with several other people was really good. I mean, a couple of years ago, there was some I don't know if he still does it, but there were some brilliant interviewers. There was him and Kurt Mungle, who were really, really good. And Kurt then quit. I think Kurt quit largely because of the bloody dickhead trolls. Jay seems to have changed a bit. I don't know. Because I met him. I met Jay. Oh, you saw him on my video. I met him at Contact in the Desert. He might be there next year. But yeah, I'll have to just find out if he's. I have to find out if I'll have to maybe study his Twitter feeds a bit more and see whether he's actually changed his position. Well, Tripper, anybody got any info on Diane Abbott? When she goes quiet, I worry. I don't. I breathe a sigh of relief. If only she were to retire, I'd go, thank God we got rid of one of the most obnoxious people in British politics. Has finally gone. I don't know. I know she got sacked, didn't she, from the cabinet, and it was all done very quietly. It wasn't a big scandal. They just did it very quietly, and it was all forgotten. The media didn't report on it anymore. The only reason she actually got sacked was she actually picked on another victim group, and she said I won't go into details on YouTube, but she started slagging off another victim group with the same ferocity she's been doing to white people for like decades, and then they finally had to act because she wasn't attacking white people. Oh, I did a whole article about it. Actually, I can show you the article. You'll like this. Actually, I'll show you. I won't read it out, but I will show you the article. And where is it? Here we go. I'll just show you the article. You'll love this. Here we go. There you go. There's the article. You can read it for yourself. I won't read it out on YouTube though, but I'm very pleased with that article. All right, guys. So, any more comments or questions? We've gone for 2.25 hours. It's been a very long one, hasn't it? So, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Diane Abbott was interviewed by Street Mick of Notting Hill. She's nuts. I mean, I go into detail. I talk about it in the article about how she got into politics, the history of her career, what a totally inappropriate and ridiculously overrated politician she is. And like I said, she's over 70 years old now. She needs to retire. She needs to retire and get the hell out. I mean, goodness me. I would love to. One of the reasons I wanted to see Kemi Badenoch become, get the Tory leadership was just to see the look on Diane Abbott's face. She thinks it's her birthright to be the first black woman Prime Minister. And then someone else gets in there first. Not another Labour lovey either, but a Tory, and someone on the far right of the Tory parties too. I mean, she would, oh God, the salt mining we get from her would be unbelievable. She'd be crying angry tears for the rest of her life. Anyway, guys, I think I'll leave it now, if no one else has got anything else to say. So I want to thank everyone who's taken part in the live stream, in posting in the live chat. See How We Are Living, Welsh Ripper, Nostarbach, JDJB2, David, Huge Arsehole. That's spelled HEWJARSOL, by the way. DJB2, Neil, Peel, The Paranormal Peep Show, Country Carpenter, Lisa Sargent, EA Audits, who's now gone, I think. Nothing As It Seems, David Splendid Isolation, Jim Bob, Disrael Diego Rivera, David Brown, Rhiannon Raven, David Riley. I think that's it. So thank you very much, all of you. So night, see how we live in. Where's Hugo Roon? He's been quiet. I haven't seen him for a while. Let us know you're all right, Hugo, won't you? And anyone else who watched this video or watched the recording, thank you very much. I appreciate your attention and your interest. And yeah, I'll be back very soon. I'm going to be away, actually, because now what's going to happen next is there won't be a video probably for about a week at least, because I'm going to be at the ASAP Seriously Strange conference. Now that is a conference I've been to before. It's at Winchester this time. It's not at Bath, so it's going to be a bit different. There's also a bit of controversy involved in it, which I'll tackle if I have to. But I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be a full reportage. Rhiannon's coming too, and Michael, her partner's coming, and then I'm going to be back. I'm going to wait for another conference the following weekend. I'll tell you all about that. I'm also going for a conference in October. I'm going to a conference in October. And I won't tell you what that one is, because it's a very special conference. It's a very special one indeed, and I want to keep it as a surprise. But all will be revealed on Panwo TV. Night sweeps. Night DJ. Night See How We Are Living. Nostar. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching Panwo TV yet again. Have a good weekend. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.